Hello, good people. I'm thrilled to bring you this interview with the inspirational author, Christian Cook, author of I Hate Gray. When it's not black and white, it's gray. Indecisiveness leads to anxiety. Welcome, Christian.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today. So let's start with sort of your background, right? Give us a little bit about who is Christian, where are you from, what's going on with your background, and we'll start there.
Okay, so I'm originally from Michigan. I moved out pretty much not as soon as I graduated high school, but after that summer, came to Chicago at 17, and I started Columbia this fall 2018. Sorry, fall 2014. And I actually started off as a journalism major. First semester as a journalism major, I always wanted to write, so I thought, okay, journalism is going to be for me. I'm going to be writing all the time. This is going to be great. Turns out I didn't like journalism as much as I thought I would. I wanted to write, but do it more creatively.
Mm.
And that is kind of how I started taking creative writing courses. And I ended up adding that as a minor throughout my college experience, dropping journalism as the major and adding PR as my major with the creative writing minor.
Nice, nice. And you mentioned 17. I know it's in your biography. You graduated high school at 16 and then moved to Chicago from Michigan. Talk to us a little bit about
Yeah.
that experience, right? Because anytime someone graduates at a younger age and then goes into college with these people who are in a different age range, that can be a little bit scary. So talk to us a little bit about that experience.
That was an experience I was not as prepared as I thought I would be for. I was really excited to leave home. Like, I'm leaving my life behind. All this is going to be over. I'm moving to a bigger city. Everything's going to be great. And when I got here, I had a positive attitude, but just seeing my family like leave me and drive away, and that was my first time being away from home, it didn't hit me like what my choice did not hit me until a little bit further into the semester. Like,
Mm,
I don't know anyone here. I don't make friends that easily, especially when I'm feeling out of place, adapting to new environments was something that was always a bit harder for me to do growing up because we moved around a lot. And going from a suburban area to an urban area had all its different nuances that I wasn't prepared for. I just thought that I was coming to school here, it'd be kind of easy because school, I thought like maybe it'd be easier for me to make friends because we're in this college just kind of feels like a world within a world.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
about Columbia specifically, it's not like your typical campus. It's in the city. It's not like you meet in the quad, you hang out here. There's all these. You just have to navigate and find your way through on your own.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's really hard to do when you're like, just starting to really figure out who you might be, right, for right now and all those different things. So kudos to you for being able to do that and do that in the wonderful city of Chicago. I'm only slightly biased
Yes.
having here. So you go to Columbia and then you go to Paris. Is that right? And
Yes.
you go to a writing program. So tell us a little bit about that. First time abroad. I have that same experience with Japan. I love it. So talk to us about the Paris experience.
So to be completely honest, I've been wanting to go to Paris since I was like 4. When I saw the Aristocats, that Disney movie, that
Yeah.
was like my jam.
Yeah.
And I saw a flyer on an elevator in the 33 East Congress building for creative writing in Paris. Now, I was doing small freelance work while I was in school, kind of writing different articles, doing small interviews with different small businesses and things. But a lot of my personal essays and different things were getting denied for a long period of time. So I just stopped writing creatively for a while because I did feel discouraged.
Mm.
But I saw the flyer and I went to the informational meeting and I just put some money aside. I saved for a few months and I was able to go. When I went there, it sparked something inside of me that I didn't feel for a really long time.
Mm.
And my professor in the program, he was just like, "You seem like a natural at this." And
Mm.
I was like, "I am. I love writing, but I haven't done it in a long time because I kept getting told no." And he was like, "No matter what, put the pen to paper and keep going." And I was just sitting in different cafes, listening, like literally hearing all this French. I don't know what's being said, writing, walking around, going into different shops, trying different foods. And it just felt like this is something that I want to do. This is something I want to pursue.
Mm.
And going on just all the random adventures I've been on in life has pretty much sparked different stories for me to write, and that I want to share with the world.
Mm, I love that. I love how you were able to go to this country that you've never been to before, right? But you were able to find your true essence, right? And I think that
Mm-hmm.
is one, what's so important about travel, but two, what's so important about reflection, right? And really looking into who we are and what we want to do and leaning into it, right? Because your professor was like, look, you're a natural. You've got to lean into this. And you did that. So the book is it semi autobiographical? Is it a little bit of,
Semi,
okay. Yeah.
yeah. Just because I wanted to write about different landscapes that I could talk about. Chicago is just a city filled with so much art, so many creatives, and so much this rich history that I wanted to tell it from talk about the city from a perspective of someone who wasn't from here, who was learning the city as she was living in it.
And I think you did that excellently. So talk to us a little bit about the plot. I know we have Krista, and I personally, at the beginning, really liked Valentina. And there was this part
Okay.
where she talks about, she's talking to her father, she's getting ready to leave for her trip, and she goes, I don't know, I just feel like when I get there, I will find it, right? And that really spoke to me in a certain way, because sometimes I used to say my favorite song was Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like, any way the wind blows, it'll find me, da 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 da. So I really that. But as I kept reading, I really started to understand sort of Krista's point of view. So tell us a little bit about the plot, and then we'll sort of dig into that a little bit.
Okay. So the point of like the family dynamic and setup was to show how they all make Krista how she is. She's like the child that wants to kind of play it safe, due to the fact because she has this wild older sister. And then the little sister made this character kind of quiet, kind of kept away on purpose, because we're going to kind of see her kind of grow into her own as well. So here she kind of feels like she is the one that has to make something of herself and prove her dad wrong. So her dad was like, okay, we put all this money and investment into you, so now I want to see what this is all about. I don't know if you noticed in the book as well, but the parents don't speak in the book at all.
You only hear them through the characters, right? You only hear the dad through the other characters. Yeah.
So you'll see all of them interact with Krista and how all of their interactions play into how she is and why she is the way she is. So that was the whole point.
I love that, because it does, we talked about this a little bit before we started, but the imagery of the middle, right? So Krista's a middle child, and then you have the gray, which is in the middle of black and white, right? You just have all this middle imagery, which really does sort of talk about the anxiety that's caused by sort of trying to find your way in the middle of all of this stuff happening, right? Your family telling you what to do, you're moving to a big city, you're doing all these different things. So talk to us about how you really thought about playing up that imagery in the book as well as in the title.
That I wanted to make sure the title made sense to people once they read it.
Okay.
Because I remember spitballing different titles to different people, and they're like, "Why would you call it that? I don't really get it." Right. And I'm like, "Okay, first she's a middle child, so we have her in between. Even in the book, she doesn't even know she made the right choice of going to college. Right. So here she is. I'm here, but I don't know if I should be here. I don't know if I want to be here." Then she also gets to college. Her social anxiety. She's like, I don't know if I want to be a party girl. I don't know if I just want to study and be in the dorms. She is literally in between all these different emotions at one time. And I wanted that to flood throughout the entire novel from the beginning to the end.
And it really does. I mean, even when you're looking at her working at Target, right? And she's sort of trying to find her way with her coworkers, but she's like, oh, I don't want to be too much. I don't want to be too little, but like, we're just going to be like this, and we're going to smile and nod very nicely, right? And
yes.
I think it really did a good job of keeping us sort of in the middle and keeping us with Krista throughout that process, right? Because I think that is where a lot of people can relate to Krista's journey, right? And especially at the age that she's at, I'm sure a lot of people felt that same exact sort of middle, indecisiveness that we don't talk about a lot, right? So let's talk about, Krista is the character in the book, but you and Black women and anxiety and like not really having, a set thing. Let's talk a little bit about that. How would you
Okay.
give advice to women who are in this position that Krista's in? Like how would you try and help them through that situation?
Two things that helped me a lot through just having those emotions: journaling, really getting your thoughts, because when you have anxiety, sometimes thoughts are just running rampant through your head and you don't know which one to hang on to, which one to throw away. So I'm constantly writing throughout the week and it
Yeah.
helps me. It decompresses me, but it feels like I'm just like letting go of all that
Mm,
emotion through writing itself.
okay.
And when I read it back to myself, I sometimes feel like I know how to make a decision now
Mm,
because it's almost like an ongoing conversation with your inner being when you
right.
get to journal. Also, don't be afraid of therapy.
Yeah.
Don't shy away from it. Don't feel ashamed if you have to go because that is why that resource is there. If you have that available, definitely take advantage of that. That is two major things that I would say help with anxiety a lot.
Yes.
And I never felt ashamed to ask for help when I needed it.
Mm,
That is something that is a narrative that I want to just be a part of changing. I don't think I can change it all on my own, but I want to be a person who advocates for that
yeah.
because it's like a hush hush thing or people feel ashamed of it. I will be, I'm the first person, even at a brunch with my friends, if someone asks me, how's life going? I'm not going to be like, oh, so cool, everything's going great. I'm like, okay, so this terrible thing just happened to me. We have to discuss it. Like, I'm just very comfortable with being open and honest because when you just repress all these feelings and you're not open and honest with anyone that you feel safe with, how are you going to move forward? How are you even going to be able to acknowledge what you're feeling specifically?
You'll
Because
get
you're
stuck.
keeping it all in.
You'll get stuck
You
in
got
that
to get it
gray
out.
area, right? Yeah, 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 yeah. That's so important. I love all of those tips, right? And especially therapy. I've been encouraging a lot of friends. This year has been really tough. And a lot of friends have just been like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and things like that. I'm like, go to therapy. Like, it is okay to go to therapy. It doesn't have to be forever. I think that's where a lot of people tend to think, like, oh, if I go to
Yes.
therapy, that means I have to go for the rest of my life. And it's like, no, if it works, like, it'll help you and you'll get tools on how to cope and then you can move on, right? So I've
Yes.
encouraged a couple of friends to go, and
Mhm.
they've been very grateful. And I'm like, yes, I'm glad that you did that. We've had very like honest conversations about our mental health and about how things are going. So I really appreciate that you mentioned that. Let's also talk about, because Krista mentions it a lot, your relationship with God, right? And
Yes.
religion. So talk a little bit about your relationship with God, how it plays out in Krista's character, and sort of how you work with that within anxiety as well, right? Because a lot of times in the Black community, what we're told is go to church, not to go to therapy, but you can do both, right? And I think a lot of people don't talk about that.
Okay. So I was raised in a family because my grandfather is a pastor
Okay.
in Detroit, and I've been going to church my entire life, like literally from the time I came out the womb.
Yeah.
I did get baptized earlier in life, like literally at 3.
Okay.
That was when I made the decision. And a lot of people are like, how did you make that decision so young? Um, Talking about this is hard because it's an inner feeling that I
Mm-hmm.
always can't verbalize to others.
Mm-hmm.
I just know that my relationship with God has always been kind of at the center of my life and has really been like the launch pad for a lot of decisions that I have made when I don't always feel like people understand me. I
Mm-hmm.
know when I pray, I'm talking to my creator, and that is the light and the direction for my life. Now, I don't go to church all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in that you have to go all the time. I don't put people down for people who believe in God and don't go to church. Those are all your people's personal preferences, and I'm never one to hammer my beliefs on someone else. I'm just open about what I do believe in. So I do want to make that very clear.
Yeah.
As far as people saying go to church, don't go to therapy or counseling, I feel like that is something that needs to be debunked
Mm-hmm.
within our community specifically because I think it is extremely unhealthy. My grandfather was also a high school counselor for many, many years of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So I was not told that. I was always encouraged to seek help, build community, because that is another reason I feel like God has created relationships, is to
Mm,
build community. We're here to help and support each other. You can't get through this life alone. It's not like, oh, I believe in God, so I shut everything else out, and this is my
right,
box that I live in.
right. Yeah, no, that's so important. And it's like, thank you for mentioning that he was also a counselor, right? Because I think a lot of times if people just hear that he was a pastor, they're going to automatically think, right, that that was forced on you. And it's like, no, this was a part of my life and it's still a very important part of my life. And I love how you described that, but also talked about the need for the community to really understand that you can have both, right? You can have a very deep relationship with God and faith in God, but also need help from a counselor or a mentor or something like that to help you get through. Talking about relationships, we have a little bit of a relationship in the book. Victor, Le Victor. Talk to us a little bit about the gray area in relationships, right? How do you really navigate that? And especially for our generation, I would say that this is something that's really timely, right? Like a lot of people are
Yes.
struggling with what a relationship looks like these days. So talk to us a little bit about Krista and Victor and then sort of how we're going with that.
So Krista and Victor, I liked their like relationship dynamic a lot. Because here's Krista, didn't date in high school, had no clue what she was doing, but developed very deep feelings for the first guy she's ever been kind of intimate with. It's not like, oh, can I come to your house after school? Like they're hanging out in dorms together. This is like her first for everything. So I wanted to kind of paint that a little nervousness, a little
Mhm,
awkwardness.
mhm,
Like she's very kind of bashful, but she's extremely interested. She doesn't know how to go about it. And then we had Victor on the other hand, who's like this super sly guy, but he also is has a soft spot for a very sweet girl.
mhm,
So here he is, like they're both in between. He's like, I like her a lot, but I want to stick to my ways. And
mm.
then here, I like him a lot. I don't want to get played. So they're both screwing it up, but they're trying the best that they can.
Yeah, they're just trying to everybody's just trying to do the best that they can, right? But I think that that really, hit on the head what relationships are like, especially in college, but also I think even now for adults, right? With these dating apps and all these different things, you never know if you're like yes or no, and it's not black or white, right? It's very gray all across the board.
All the time.
Yeah, and
And I hate
especially
it.
listen, okay, I haven't even been in the game for like a year now, but I have no desire to go back, right? Because it just looks messy. I don't want any
I
part of
think I'm about to be in your boat. Actually, I think I'm about to give it up for a while
it.
too. This is my last. This is our last shot.
Yes, exactly. Because look, we're in a pandemic. We're just gonna keep it going. Like it'll work out the way it's supposed to work out. Speaking of a pandemic, you wrote this book before COVID, but in the
Yes.
beginning, right, we see Krista being in the house for 2 weeks straight, right? And I wrote down a note. I was like, "This is pre-COVID, right?" I wonder how Krista would react to the situation that we're in, sort of right now.
Krista would have been prepared. Like Krista is, she will shut people down and out
Yeah.
and quarantine herself and her mind until she figures out what her plan is. And she doesn't care what anyone has to say about it. She's very type A. She's very reflective. She will take this time, come out, and be like, okay, so this is what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and everyone get on board.
And I think that's the aspect of Kristen that I started to relate to towards the end, right? Because in the beginning I was like, oh, Valentina, like going off and figuring out everything. But then I was like, no, actually, I've been in this house for like 8 months now. I'm good, and I'm coming out sort of a little bit stronger than I was before. So I really liked that aspect of it. There's another aspect that's not really talked about too much, and I know it's related to your life as well, but art, right? So you really love art. You thought you were going to open up a gallery, all these different things. Talk to us about your relationship with art, and how that sort of has played out.
I have such a deep appreciation for art. You can typically, I used to go to museums all the time, like doing nothing. If I'm free, I'll be at the MCA. I just remember first coming here and being surrounded, like going to the Art Institute, going to the MCA, going to the MOCP at Columbia. going to random different art gallery parties, which I thought were so cool because you got free wine and cheese, and it was just like a cool thing at the time. I was like, oh my gosh, we're at a gallery party, it's so fun.
Yeah.
But I like I worked Art Basel as well
Wow.
last year at the end of 2019. I was going to be a part of it this year, but COVID has shut everything down. But it's just something that I always like to be around, even if I'm not like the one creating it. I love meeting different artists, finding out why they created what they created, what gave them inspiration, what they do to find inspiration when they're not feeling as creative. I just love being in a creative space. It gives me so much life and energy.
Love that. I really related to that aspect too, because actually when I went to school originally, I went to a really funky make your own major program that was
Okay.
amazing and things like that. But I originally was going to create my own major of art therapy, and I was going to open up a gallery in Santa Monica and things like that. So when you mentioned art and being surrounded by it, I was like, oh, we have to talk about that. And I love that you were at Art Basel. Like, goals, honestly, I would love to go to Art Basel. So many things that I want to do related to art. So I love that that's an important aspect of it. Speaking of creativity as well, tell us about your experience at Columbia College. How was that? I know it's a very creative university. I know you know my brother, he went there as well and he loved it. So tell us a little bit about that experience.
Columbia was an experience that was definitely a roller coaster.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just be completely clear. I did have a good time.
Yeah.
I would say I had fun like the first 2 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Freshman and sophomore year was just about having fun, going to class, going to parties. And then it was like the last 2 years when I really got serious about, okay, you're a junior, next year's your senior year. What is your post grad life going to be like? So I felt like I kind of had two different college experiences wrapped up in one. I would say it was very stressful a lot of times. Columbia is a school that's always changing. Professors are always changing. Program requirements are always changing.
Okay.
So that was something that I just kind of always stayed on edge about. So I'm like, what if I have to take this class now in order to graduate when it wasn't a requirement before? So just trying to stay on top of my grades, my social life, and everything else in between and all around that was something that was very hard for me to navigate completely at first, to be completely honest. And I was away from home, so not having my family as my support system was difficult at times. But I met a lot of good people along the way. So it's just, there were so many pros and cons where I felt like at the end of my Columbia experience, I feel like I just kind of cut even. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah. No, that's a great way to put it. I think, and that's a fair way to leave that relationship, right? Even it had your pros and cons, and that was that, and that it was what it was, right? But it was an
Yes.
experience that was part of your life, and now you're in PR, right?
Yes.
Are you loving it? How's PR going? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. Let's just get 100% honest. I love PR.
Yep.
I like writing. I like going to events. I like talking to journalists. I like talking to people in general.
Yep.
Now, where I'm at right now, do I want to pivot? Yes.
Yep.
I'm in desperate need of a pivot.
Yep.
I believe it's coming soon, so that's something I'm really excited about. I do see myself in the field for some time. I don't know how long. I don't know if I was telling my mom this actually earlier today. I don't know if I'll be a PR professional and an author, or one day just go into full time being an author. It really all depends, because this is something that I don't feel like I have to choose between both of them, and that's one thing that I feel like is extremely refreshing.
Yeah. And all I'll say is Black publicists matter, so it is important work you're doing. But I completely understand if you'd want to go into full-time writing, because the book really, really highlights that. So are we going to get a sequel? Is that what I'm hearing? Are we following Krista on the journey?
I want Krista to have a full journey.
Yes.
We have to get the publishers on board to make sure they want Krista's full journey. Okay. I'm still under review right now. It's like this process has been the most, because today is the 3-month anniversary, actually.
Right.
And
yes.
And I've been really excited during this entire time, but like I said, I'm under review. I think in December, and I will know around then if we do get to follow her again
Yes.
for another adventure and aligns to her journey through college.
You know what? I'm calling it right now. We're going to put it on first. We are going to discuss it. I will, if you need a letter from me, I will write something and be like, we need more Krista. So let's keep this moving. Whatever you need. Congratulations on your 3-month anniversary. This is so awesome. I know it's been
Thank you.
a really tough process, but you've gotten into these bookstores and it's on Amazon. It's on all these different places. So talk to us about a little bit of promotion. Talk to us a little bit about the book, where you can find it, all those different exciting things.
Okay, so right now we are in free bookstores. We are at Volumes Books, the Gold Coast North location, 900 North Michigan. We are in Quimby's Bookstore in Wicker Park, and we are at Sam Myers Bookstore in the South Loop. And you can also buy the book on Amazon.
We love it. We love it. Everybody, go out and get this book. It's right here. I will be posting about it. You will see it. I Hate Gray by Christian Cook. Thank you so much, Christian. I have one final question, my this or that.
Okay.
If you don't eat these things, it's going to be a food question. If you don't eat these things, that's fine. We'll figure something else out. Pizza or tacos? I know. I like to throw it in there.
Hard.
I know.
Oh. Because I just had both this week.
Yep. Say it depends on the day, right?
It really does. It depends. I'm gonna go with tacos. That was so hard. That was so hard for me to do, but it definitely would be tacos.
I would agree.
Tacos are my fave.
Okay. Yep. We love some shrimp tacos. We love some seafood tacos.
Yes. I like tacos from Broken English specifically.
Nice.
The Old Town location is the one I typically go to.
Okay.
When it was all open and everything. Yes. Tequila Los Camales is another good one.
Okay.
They'll be, I think, my top 2 taco spots.
Alrighty. We love it. Thank you so much, Christian. We look forward to seeing your journey and Chris's journey and many more throughout the years.
Thank you for having me. I had so much fun with you today.
Thank you so much.